What's going on, everyone? So the shorthanded Lakers have really been struggling as of late, right? But we have no Anthony Davis, who is our defensive anchor. He's a guy that turns us from, a top 15 defense to a bottom 3 defense. And we're absolutely atrocious without him because he just makes up so much landscape. It's incredible. Not just that, but he's arguably our best player before injury. He was playing like the best player in the league, and he's a guy that really turns this team around. You also don't have Austin Reaves and Lonnie Walker, two guys that were giving us, 15 a game. They're two of our 5 best players on the roster. So when you're missing arguably your best player, two of your more consistent role players, that really hurts, right? That's going to hurt any team. But even still, even with the struggles as of late, in our last 10 games, as you can see here, we actually have a winning record. We actually have been good and weathered the storm since AD's out. The problem was we went and just had such a poor start to the season that it's not really catching any ground, right? We're still in a terrible position because we started off so poorly. Where if we started off how we have, or like when Anthony Davis was playing monstrous, like if we were playing like that from day one, we might actually be in a really good position. So we don't have that margin of error that we should have with no Anthony Davis, Austin Reaves, and Lonnie Walker. But still, we've won 6 out of 10 games in the most recent 10, although we've only won 1 out of our last 5, which that really hurts, of course, as well. But even then, if you look in the standings, we're still only 2 games out of a play-in spot. We're actually only 2 games out of the 7th seed, and we're only 2.5 games out of the 6th seed. So we're still right there. We're not that far away. It's not like we're 7, 8 games out of a playoff spot. Luckily, the West is kind of equally bad or equally good, however you want to look at it, which is allowing the Lakers to stay in the hunt at least. And then once that happens, if we start getting pieces back, we can make a real push, but we're right there, and when you're looking at this, we're going into the Memphis Grizzlies game, right? And that's a scary game, right? Memphis is on an 11-game win streak. They are playing some really good basketball. The Lakers are not as of late, and you could write this off as almost an automatic L, right? But these are the kind of games that really do sort of are the surprising games, the sort of trap games, as people like to put it, right? It's a team that just can't seem to lose right now against a team that can't seem to get it together. Lakers are at home, and Memphis drops an egg or something, like, right? That's a real possibility. So not saying that the Lakers are going to win, but it wouldn't be completely shocking if they did, because that's just how the NBA works, right? Any given day. But beyond the Grizzlies game, you got the Blazers, which I think is a winnable game. The Clippers, which I think is a winnable game. Although the Clippers have had our number, right? But they've been really struggling. The Spurs, I think, is a winnable game, right? The Celtics, that's going to be tough. The Nets, I think, is a winnable game without KD. And then we got the Knicks, who I think is a winnable game. The Pacers, I think, is a winnable game. Pelicans is going to be tough. Thunder, I think, is going to be tough, but I think that's a winnable game. And then we start getting into a more tougher stretch, right? You got the Bucks, the Warriors, the Blazers, the Pelicans, the Warriors, the Mavericks, the Grizzlies, right? And that's going into February 9th, which would be the trade deadline, right? So hopefully we can weather this storm through these next, 10 games or so, rattle off a couple wins, kind of stay within, relevance, within reason. Especially, we have to win the Blazers game and we have to win the Clippers game, because those are 2 teams that are in front of us in the standings, as well as the Thunder game when we approach the Thunder game. If we can win those games, that would be great, because that kind of just keeps us a game ahead, right? And keeps us in the mark. And then hopefully Rob Pelinka can work out something, do some type of trade to kind of bolster this roster, and maybe now we can go off to the races. By that really tough stretch that I mentioned earlier, I really think that if Anthony Davis is back, right? Because like I said, we play the Bucks on the day that the trade deadline would be finalized. If that game, by then, if we have Anthony Davis back, and then just for an example, not saying it'll happen, but let's say we could get like Boyan and Alec Burke, I think we're off to the races. Right? We've already proven we can hang with the Milwaukee Bucks. Well, now if we got a roster that actually is upgraded and improved, you got Austin Reaves, Lonnie Walker, and you got Anthony Davis back. Maybe they trade Lonnie Walker so that way they could keep Russ. Because if you're going to get like a Boyan and Burke or a Boyan and Noel, because there's talks about Nerlens Noel. You're probably going to have to give up Lonnie Walker in that package as well. But whatever, like even if you do, you still get Austin Reaves back, you still get AD back, and you hopefully have 2 or 3 pieces that are also adding to a better roster overall. And now we can start making that push to get into the playoffs. Again, we're not that far away to where it's like, okay, like, there's no point. What's the rhyme? What's the reason to make a move? And luckily, no teams are making trades right now because no teams are in a rush to make a trade, right? You still have just shy of 3 weeks before the trade deadline. So teams are still trying to figure out, where are they? What do they want to do? How do they want to approach this? What are their options? A team like Chicago, right? Like Chicago right now is in a play-in. They're only, 3.5 games out of a playoff spot. Do they look at it as like, okay, well, we can make a push? Let's go make a push, get into the 6th seed, and then maybe we have a matchup against like the Nets or the Sixers. How do we feel about that in the first round, right? Or do they look at it and go, it's not really worth it. This team isn't very good. If they start rattling off a couple losses, same thing with the Pacers, right? The Pacers, yes, they're in the 9th seed, but they're only 3 games out of being in the play-in altogether. They don't have Halliburton. They're on a 5-game losing streak. Do they continue to lose and go, okay, well, we need to get something for Miles Turner. We need to kind of retool. We need to prepare for the season. And then that allows the Lakers to kind of, maybe make a push for some of those guys. That's the situation here, just for an example. There are other teams as well, but that's the example that we have to like look at is like, you have these teams that have been mentioned and linked to the Lakers, and all of those teams still need to figure out where do they want to be? What do they believe in? Do they believe that they can make a strong push? Do they go from being sellers to now buyers? Does Indiana, like if they get John Collins, does Indiana look at it and go, okay, no, maybe we can make a push. Let's see what we look like, right? Like, let's go get John Collins and maybe we have enough now to really make some noise, get into the playoffs. Halliburton will be back, in a couple weeks or whatever, right? Like, how do teams start looking at it, right? But even if the Lakers don't make a move, right? Like, let's say the Lakers do end up standing pat, which I hope they don't. I do think the Lakers make some trade. I do think the Lakers get something done, whether it's, even just going and getting Cam Reddish just to say we got Cam Reddish. I do think they do something. But even if the Lakers do stand pat, you still are going to get Lonnie Walker, Austin Reaves back, which are huge, right? Lonnie Walker's been great. He's been one of our most consistent players the entire season. He's a guy that can give you, 15 to 20 night in and night out. He's been one of our best three-point shooters. So has Austin Reaves, right? We're also missing our 2 best three-point shooters on the roster, which doesn't help either. Austin Reaves has really played well all season. He really works well with LeBron James. High IQ guy, can run the offense if you need him to, knock down and create his own shots. Like, these are 2 pieces that are very valuable for the Lakers because we just don't have that much talent. We don't have that much true depth. But the reason I'd like to get a trade done is because these 2 guys also shouldn't be our 3rd and 4th best player. They should be our 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th best player, right? Like, if you have Austin Reaves and Lonnie Walker as like your 6th and 7th guy off the bench, now you're probably looking good because that means you should have enough talent in the starting 5, especially if you could keep Russ. Now you'd have, like, if our bench is, say, Russ, Lonnie, Reaves, whatever, Troy Brown, and Wenyen Gabriel, that's a really good bench, right? And Russ has shooting on it. Like, and if we have like our starting 5 of, say, Dennis Schroeder, Alec Burke, Bojan Bogdanovic, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, now we have a great starting 5. We have a great bench 5, and we might be one of the best teams in the league if that ends up happening. But even if they don't do anything, still, just to get these 2 guys back, 2 guys that could be your starters, 2 guys that can come in and take some of the burden off of LeBron, AD, and Russ, that is just huge in and of itself. And we really need these guys. And I do think that once we get these 2 back, and once we get Anthony Davis back, I do think we can make a push. And I do think, based on what we've seen from this Lakers team, without these 3 guys, we have a real shot of getting into the playoffs. And then once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen, right? We've seen stranger things. The Dallas Mavericks were in the Western Conference Finals last year, and nobody except for maybe Dallas fans thought that that was going to happen. But you never know. You get the right matchups here and there. You still have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, right? You still have Russell Westbrook. You have three guys that top 75 all time. You still have great, just great pillars to push it through. Guys with the experience, guys that have won championships, like guys that know what it takes, right? And you trust them to kind of carry the workload. And I really do think that they can carry the workload. There's not a team in the West that I look at and go, man, there's no way we beat them in a 7-game series. Does that mean that we're just going to walk through the West? Of course not. But I do think we have a chance against every team in the Western Conference. The only teams that I really look at and go, man, I don't know if we could beat them in a 7-game series is the Celtics and the Bucks, which we wouldn't have to worry about unless we came out the West. Then we end up playing one of those two teams, very likely. Look, if like the Sixers or somebody ends up coming out the East and the Lakers, I would be jumping for joy. But realistically, it's probably going to be one of the Celtics or the Bucks that come out of the East. And if the Lakers could manage to do it, I still like our chances. I just think that would be very tough. I think it'd be a tall ask. I just think those teams are better overall than the Lakers right now. But with the right trade or two, who knows? And we're going to go as far as Anthony Davis takes us. It's something that I've reiterated since the beginning of the season. He is our guy, right? Like LeBron has been amazing, no doubt about it. But he's 38 years old, and he's not able to control and impact the game like he once was. He's still really good. He's still a top 10 guy, but he's not that like just dominant force where it's like, man, like you and me could be out there with LeBron James and we could win some games. He's not that guy anymore, but he's still good enough with Anthony Davis to really lead a charge here and help us, because right now it's essentially Russell Westbrook and LeBron James every game. It's 2-on-5, against every team we play. It's just, and that's the problem. Those are the only two guys that we have consistently night in and night out that are able to provide and give us scoring and give us playmaking and kind of set guys up and stuff and play defense as well. Like, and once you get AD back now, at least that gives you 3 guys, right? But also Lonnie Walker and Austin Reaves, there gives you 4 or 5 guys, and now whatever else anybody else contributes to is just extra. It's just that add-on. So I do still think we're there. Hopefully the Lakers get something done. I hope the Lakers do pull off a trade. But even if they don't, I still like our chances. I still think if everybody's healthy, I do think we can win more games than we'll lose with Anthony Davis, Austin Reaves, and Lonnie Walker back. I really do. Without them, we've been 6-4. Very likely we might end up being 6-5 right now, but still. And one of those games was without LeBron James even. It was just our role guys. So, I don't know. It would be nice if we could get this win tonight. Even if we don't, we got to get the Portland win. We got to get some of the wins that are coming up. The games that we should win, we got to win, right? And then the games that are kind of, 50-50, right? The games that are kind of like, that could be a coin flip. We got to find a way to win those games, right? Like Portland, we got to beat Portland. Clippers, we got to beat the Clippers. Spurs, we got to beat the Spurs. So even if we lose to the Grizzlies tonight, you have 3 straight games that I think you can win and you have to win. And then Celtics, if you lose the Celtics, you lose the Celtics. Then you got the Nets, and then hopefully maybe AD comes back by the time you go on that stretch against the Celtics, the Nets, and the Knicks. That would be wonderful, right? Because then maybe you can beat the Celtics. I think you beat the Nets. I think you could beat the Knicks. I think you could beat the Pacers. Pelicans, I still think you could beat the Pelicans. Thunder, you might be able to rattle off. Like if AD comes back by January 28th when you play the Celtics, I really think you could win your next 6-7 games easily. Like I really do. I really believe that. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. So let me know down in the comment section below.